Hello, fellow creeps and weirdos and monster lovers. Welcome back to the Mask Fanatic. Actually, today I'm in Monster Toy Corner, just because, well, no particular reason other than I feel like we should change it up every now and then, so you poor people don't have to see the same background. I thought you might like to see something a little different. So today I'm coming to you from Monster Toy Corner. And by the way, that's just me calling it there. There's not like an official, marker. Like it's been declared a historical landmark by the state government, and there's a sign that says Monster Toy Corner, although there probably should be. Anyway, let's get on with this week's mask, shall we, as we continue our unending look at the history of mask and monster design and such. This week's mask is, well, it's a Frankenstein monster, and you know, there have been a ton of Frankenstein movies. Okay, I'm speaking figuratively because you can't really weigh how many Frankenstein movies there have been in terms of tonnage, I don't think, but let's say there have been a lot of Frankenstein movies over the years. There have been an awful lot of Frankenstein movies and a lot of awful Frankenstein movies. However, apart from the classic Frankenstein monster design created by Jack Pierce, which is still the standard, the gold standard, or maybe the green standard, I guess it would be. The classic Frankenstein monster, you know, square head, big brow, the neck bolts, the scar, the black hair coming down. That monster was made up the same way in a number of movies. Of course, the entire Universal Frankenstein series, although the makeup was applied to different actors, the same design was used in all the Universal movies. So the makeup was essentially more or less the same, pretty close, on Boris Karloff, Glenn Strange, Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr. All those guys were playing the same monster, and it's like I said, it's the classic Frankenstein monster design. Oddly enough, the only other makeup in movie history, up until the taping of this segment anyway, the only other one ever to appear in more than one movie is this one. That's right. It's Teenage Frankenstein from the movie Teenage Frankenstein, which is also alternately known as I Was a Teenage Frankenstein. No, I wasn't. You were, remember? Yeah. Also known as I Was a Teenage Frankenstein. Oddly enough, this makeup is the only one besides the classic Boris Karloff design used in all those other films back in the 30s and 40s by Universal. The only one ever to appear in more than one movie. And the other movie after I Was a Teenage Frankenstein, no, I'm not saying I was, you were, I know that. The other movie he was in, which recreated basically this same makeup, was called How to Make a Monster, and came out in 1958, a year after I Was a Teenage Frankenstein. No, I know you were the teenage I know that. A year after, because the Teenage Frankenstein movie came out in 1957, and then a year later, How to Make a Monster. And boy, by the way, if you saw How to Make a Monster on late night television when you were a kid, as I did, and you didn't really know what it was about, but you knew there was a movie going to be on called How to Make a Monster, man, were you ever disappointed? Because I know I certainly was, because I thought it was going to be about how to make a monster. Yeah, anyway, not a great film, no. Oddly enough, at the same time this movie was being made in America, 1957, over in Great Britain, the folks at Hammer were making another Frankenstein movie, Curse of Frankenstein. Wow, what a difference between those two films in terms of scripting and acting and dialogue and editing and storytelling. What a vast difference. But hey, a lot of people remember this movie despite its, well, shall we say, scientific implausibilities. And if you're looking at this face, you may realize this doesn't look 100% realistic as far as what a mangled and battered and bloody human face might look like. But, well, that's why I like this particular mask version. You see, in the movie, it looks just like this. It looks kind of like a football player who's been hit in the face with a custard pie, and then he's got this one fried egg eyeball here going on. Now, there have been a lot of masks over the years of the Teenage Frankenstein monster done by various artists, but a lot of the artists never seem to be able to bring themselves to sculpt something as rough and crude and irrational and illogical and just randomly lumpy to the point of near abstraction as this one. And so they smooth it out a little and they make it a little more realistic, and you come up with something, they come up with something that's a nice mask as far as your haunted house or your Halloween party or whatever, but it's really not this same character. It ends up looking more like kind of a Jason Voorhees Frankenstein kind of thing. The one in the movies looks like this, folks. And this particular one was created by Daryl Vidari, formerly in business as VXX-FX. This version came out in, I believe, 1999, and from the period between 1999 and 2010, Daryl made a total of 28 of these. I don't know what number this one is. It's one of the 28, okay? 28 of these, so there are 28 of these that exist in the known universe. Now, after that, later on, Daryl came out with another excellent, excellent Teenage Frankenstein mask. Just as nice, really, except didn't have as much of a neck here. That version was styled more like a Topstone mask, which is to say it was sort of cut off this way. So it's not quite as complete, not quite as deluxe. And by the way, this does have latex all the way down here. It does have a full latex neck. I just wrapped a piece of fabric around there to look like in the movie, because in the movie he's got bandages basically holding his head on. Okay? And yeah, I know it's not exactly what anybody would say was 100% realistic and doesn't capture any sense of wonderful organic realism, but it's one of those images that if you're an old geezer, you may have grown up with seeing this face on things, right? The old Teenage Frankenstein, because it was kind of influential because it's just so outrageously horrific with its one vastly oversized eyeball and such that, well, it's kind of a cheese log classic in its own way, and I'm very happy to have one in my collection, even though I recognize the, you know, the design flaws as far as this looking truly realistic. This is the Teenage Frankenstein I remember, and so I like this one the best. I don't know where you can find one of these, but you may if you live long enough. You know, one of these may turn up on eBay or something, right? And heck, after I'm gone from the planet, my whole collection will probably be sold off, and maybe you can own this one after I'm gone. But well, don't plan on it, okay? Don't figure on it or anything, because I'm not promising. Just a thought. Anyway, join us here again next time for another look at some fantastically cool monster here in Monster Toy Corner as part of the Mask Fanatic. And until then, Teenage Frankenstein says he hopes to see you at Mask Fest.